Okay, hello, welcome. So today we'll be discussing about function of blood. So in our previous video, we looked at the composition of blood. Now that you know the composition of blood, that blood is really made up of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. And we did discuss what are the main functions of those components of blood that makes up just the entire blood. So now we'll look at now the overall function of blood with respective to each of those components. Now, so as you may aware is that blood plays a very important role in the functioning of the processes in the body systems, or maybe in the human's body system. Now, the first function that I'm going to talk about, so I'll talk about transport, right? So the first function of blood is transport. So this is what I'm going to talk about. So blood in the human body, okay, really plays a very important role for transportation. Now, we did talk about that in these other organisms or plants or what, we have got blood vessels, right? So even this blood is able to be transported in those vessels and is taken to different part of the body where it is needed, or to different parts of the tissues in the body. Now, since we've said that the first function of blood is transport, so it is the transportation system. So now, this transport, meaning that blood is used for transporting what? Number one, is used to transport oxygen. All right. So blood is used to transport oxygen. So what it is that oxygen from the lungs, okay, so it is able to transport oxygen from the lungs to the tissues, all right? So oxygen from the lungs, okay, then to the tissues. So ideally, I talked about how oxygen is able to be transported or to be carried. So meaning that this oxygen is carried by the red blood cell, right? So I've talked about that. So now oxygen is able to be transported from the lungs to the tissues, right? So basically it is transported as OXO. I talked about this one, okay? I talked about the hexohemoglobin, hemoglobin, right? I talked about the hexohemoglobin there. So that's what we have as the first part of the function. So still on our transport system, again, blood or maybe also blood is used as a means of transporting carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is also transported. So this time around, carbon dioxide is transported from tissue cells, okay? So it's transported from tissue, from the tissues now to the lungs, right? So it's transported the tissue to the lungs. So this one is mainly carried in the plasma as the hydrogen carbonate ions. So that's basically what happens. Okay, still moving on, we can talk about now digested food and minerals. So blood is used to transport digested food and minerals. Okay, so it's used to transport digested foods and mineral salts. So what happened is that food that has been digested and these mineral salts from the digestive tract, particularly which is the small intestines, to the liver, where amino acids and sugar levels are balanced, and then these are released into the general circulation. So basically this happens from when the food is absorbed from the intestines, all right? So food is absorbed from the intestines there, and it is being taken to the liver. After that, the food is also taken to the tissues, where it is needed to be used. So the other thing that is transported by blood is, we'll talk about now, excretory waste product. So excretory waste products. So blood is used to transport these excretory products. Here an example such as urea. Alright, so such as urea is a excretory product and is a waste product, okay, shouldn't accumulate in your body. So from the tissues to the lungs, skin and kidneys, and also toxic waste are also carried together in the blood plasma. So ideally these excreta what happens from the tissue, so they come from the tissues, right, to the lungs, okay, kidneys, okay, even the skin, okay. So that what happens, and including also toxic waste are carried to alongside in the blood plasma. So other than that, also blood is used to transport hormones, right? So blood is used to transport hormones, right? So these hormones, ideally they are carried from the endocrines, from the endocrine glands, okay, in the blood plasma to the parts of the body where, or maybe to the target organ. So from there to the target organ, right? So also blood is used, so heat is produced by the muscles and various organs is carried out in the body. So ideally this is what the function of blood is all about. So let's talk about also another function. So we said the first function of blood is that it is used to transport oxygen, it transports carbon dioxide, digested food and minerals, excretory products, and hormones are transported. So that is the first function of blood. So the next function of blood that I'll talk about here now is is for protection, right? So for protection. So ideally here what I mean for protection, so I'm going to talk about blood clotting. So it is used as a clotting factor, or it is used for protection. So because the clotting is able to make, so meaning invasion of other foreign materials or microorganisms, are hindered because they cannot penetrate through your blood and cause damage. So blood is used for that purpose of protection. So ideally here what I will try to do is I'll try to demonstrate what happened. So since I've talked about clotting, so let me just draw a simple diagram that will highlight the stages, or maybe what happens in the clotting system. So suppose I have these okay, so these are platelets, like I showed you, saying these have got irregular shape. So these are platelets. So what happens is that, okay, meaning that if someone, okay, so this is the layer of the skin. So if let's say someone has got a wound, so the blood platelets are able to come there. Now, okay, what happens is that we're going to have air. Sorry, I hope you can see that. So air is going to enter the wound. Okay, so when air enters the wound, what happened then, right? These are the platelets. Let me just try to indicate that so that I don't confuse any one of you. So these are the platelets, right? So what happens there? There will be the enzyme, okay? So we're going to have the enzyme. Here the enzyme is called thrombokinase, all right? So I'll explain this. I'll make you understand this. So we've got the thrombokinase. So we have the thrombokinase there, and here maybe let's say we are going to have the red blood cell. I hope you can see that. Okay, then this is a RBC, All right, so in short, what I have here, I have the red blood cell. All right, and here, so this one is the red blood cell, and this one is the white blood cell. Okay, it's a leukocyte. Right, so what happens is that this enzyme, okay, when air enters, okay, so the platelets are up there, so they come to the surface of the wound. So what happens is that this enzyme, this enzyme, which is the thrombokinase, is able to activate, right, so is able to activate a protein that is called the thrombin. All right, so we have the thrombin there, right? So when this thrombin, okay, is activated, what happened is that the thrombin, so we have the thrombin, then we also have the fibrino, so we have got the fibrinogen, right? So the fibrinogen is a protein I mentioned of this. So the fibrinogen is going to form another protein that is called the fibrin. All right, so this now fibrin, it's the one that is going now to form a clot. So to present a clot, I'll just do like this. Okay, it is now what is going to form the clot. All right, so I've just noticed that down here the video is not seen, so I'll try to adjust that in a little bit. Alright, so like I was explaining, what happens is that I was explaining on the clotting. So basically this is brought up by a series of reaction. So the platelets, okay, and damaged blood vessels. Yeah, so I was just trying to explain to what clotting is about. So I said clotting is brought to you, is brought by series of reactions. All right, so here this line here just represents the skin, and this is the wound. So when air, when the air also enters here, what happens that these platelets are brought to the surface. Now we have these enzymes which is called the thrombokinase. Now the thrombokinase is going to activate a thrombin. So the activation, what happens, for example, here we're going to have calcium salts. Okay, so this is why calcium is very important. So we have got calcium salt that is going to react with the prothrombin. So I talked about this protein the time that I was looking at the what consists of the plasma. So what happened is this kinase is going to enable the reaction. Now after that, the thrombin, okay, that is produced as a result of these enzymes that has activated it. So the thrombin will act on the plasma protein, which is the plasma protein here, which is the fibrinogen. Now the fibrinogen then is converted to the fibrin, okay, which forms a network of fibrous cervix-like, and this is what you are able to see, okay, that I'm presenting as a clot, as a clot. So these now, they will become closed with red blood cells. You've seen the red blood cells here, so they will become closed with the red blood cells. So, and once it happens, all right, meaning that they will stop, okay, it will now clot, thereby they will stop further blood loss, and also they will stop harmful germs or bacteria to enter the wound, or maybe to enter into your circulatory system. So basically this is the function of blood. This is the second function of blood that I was explaining on the protection part, or maybe I was explaining on how clotting is done. Now let me talk about the last function. So let me just use another different marker. Alright, so I'm also going to talk about the third function of blood. So here the third function of blood that I'll talk about is for immunity. Alright, so meaning that, so I'll say immunity. Alright, so I'm sure we all have an idea what we mean when we say the immunity. So basically there will be the removal of pathogens and dead cells by phagocytes. Now I did mention, so basically here, okay, we'll talk about the white blood cells. Okay, so the white blood cells are the ones that are responsible for immunity. Now, like I mentioned in our previous video when we were looking at the composition of blood, basically when we are talking about the white blood cells, I said these white blood cells, they are in different types, and each of those, they perform different function. Now we've got the phagocytes. So we've got the phagocytes. Okay, so now the phagocytes, what they do is that they are responsible to remove any pathogens and dead cells, right? So through the process of so like they will engulf bacteria, and they are able also to remove those dead cells. So bacteria and various foreign bodies are ingested by the white blood cell, which is known as the phagocyte. So this was the first. So this was the first. So the second one is so apart from the removal of germs, so here like I was just simply talking about say they remove, all right, they remove germs. Yeah, so I was just talking about saying they remove germs. So the second one is that they are involved in the production of antibodies, right? So they are responsible for the production of antibodies. All right. So now I talked about antibodies being one of the proteins that are found in the blood plasma. So, all right. So as I mentioned, to say that the function of the blood is for immunity. Now I've talked about the phagocyte, and what the phagocyte basically does is that it there to engulf bacteria or to eat the bacteria. So these are called large eaters, right? They will eat the bacteria, thereby removing those microorganisms or bacteria in short. Then we have that these white BCs, they produce antibodies. Now these antibodies are proteins, right, that are found in blood or blood plasma. So the production of these antibodies, okay, so this is just a protein that will help to neutralize the effect of toxins in the blood. They will also help to kill the microorganism or the bacteria, and also what they do is that they will cause these bacteria to clump together so that the phagocyte will come and eat. So clumping together meaning these small microorganisms, they'll come, okay, they'll produce a toxin that will make these microorganisms to clump together in one place, and when the phagocyte come, okay, will just come and engulf. So this is a phagocyte, will come and engulf these microorganisms. Then also I'll talk about is that the production of these antibodies, okay, will also aid in the tissue rejection. So what it is, we've known, or we've talked about how we've talked about blood transfusion, or you know about blood transfusion. So I'll talk about how, I'm going to highlight more on different types of blood groups. So meaning the presence of these antibodies will reduce the rejections of blood tissues when maybe one wants to donate blood, or maybe one is a recipient that will want to get blood for the purpose of survival. We know the reason why we do blood transfusion. And last but not the least, also these antibodies, they'll make it possible for the matching of those blood groups. Now let me talk about now these blood groups in more detail so that we have a clear picture of what we are talking about, in case some of you don't know how blood groups they are, and what makes you to donate and what makes others to reject certain blood groups. Okay, we're going to talk about blood group. Now, you might want to know that regardless of what you are, you've got a group to where your blood belongs to. So all you need to just do is that just go there and have your blood checkup if you don't know. Now, basically, blood are divided into 4 groups. All right. So I'll put it here like this. So we've got all right, blood group. All right. So all right, blood group. Okay. So we have blood group A, we have blood group B, we have blood group AB, and we have blood group O. All right. So these are the 4 types of blood groups. So there's A, there's B, there is AB, and there is blood group O. Now, all right, there is also what we call antigens. All right. Now, if you may recall about antigens, all right, these are just particles, all right, in our body. Such as toxins, chemicals, bacteria, those are antigens. So we've got antigens and we also got antibodies. I was just talking about immune system when I said that RBCs, they will produce antibodies, and those antibodies will neutralize the poisonous effects in your in your blood. They will make the bacteria to clump together so as for the phagocytes to come and eat them, and also they just help in matching or maybe to reduce the rejection of tissue transfusion. So basically, when it comes to blood, the blood itself, it is divided or it is grouped into 4 groups. So we have the A, the B, the AB, and the O. So we have the antigens. So the antigens basically are represented by a capital letter. All right. So antigens are presented by a capital letter. So maybe I'll put antigens. So I'll put antigen, meaning blood antigen there. Then here I'm going to have antibody. Okay, blood antibodies or antibody. So this is what happens. So these antigens are on the red blood cell. All right. So these antigens, they are found on a red blood cell. All right. And these antibodies, they are in the serum. All right. They are in the serum. Now, you might recall that we had an assignment that told you to differentiate between plasma, serum, and also the lymph. So I hope by now you know what the serum is. So moving on. So basically what I was saying is that antigens are presented by a capital letter. So if you are a blood group A, all right, meaning that your antigen is A. Let me just use a different marker so that I can highlight that more, right? So I was saying, if your blood group A, meaning you are antigen A. Now, like I said, antigens are represented by a capital letter. All right. So if you're a blood group B, meaning your antigen is B. Okay. And if you are a blood group AB, meaning that your antigen is A and B. Then if you are a blood group O, meaning you have no antigen. You have no antigen. So if you're blood group A, meaning you have no antigen. And this is what makes blood group O to be a special blood, because they do not have the antigen. And as you may recall is that we've heard the saying of saying that the blood group O is a universal donor, meaning they can donate blood to these other blood groups. All right. So they are universal donor because they don't have the antigen. Now we go to the antibodies. So don't forget that the antigens are represented by capital letters, while the antibodies are represented by small letters. So what happens is this: if you are a blood group, okay, if you are a blood group A, you have the antigen A. So if you are a blood group A, when it comes to antibodies, meaning if you are a blood group A, your antibodies is the opposite, meaning you've got the antibody B. So just check that, okay? Check that. That is a small letter, okay? that is a small letter B. So if you're a blood group A, meaning your antibody is B. Okay, small letter B. Like I said, antibodies are represented by a small letter, while antigens are presented by a capital letter. So if you are A, meaning your antibody is B. If you are a blood group B, your antibody is A. You check again. I've indicated a small letter there. All right. So if you are a blood group AB, meaning you have no antibody, you have no antibody there. So this makes also the special for AB to donate blood to A and B. All right, because they have no antibody. Why? So because they have no antibodies, let me just put antibodies. Alright, so they have no antibodies. So that's how it works. And if you are a blood group O, meaning you have antibodies A and B. Alright, so meaning your antibodies are A and B. I'll come again and I'll say that again. Basically, we have 4 blood groups. So we have A, B, A, B, O. Alright, so we have got antigens and we've got antibodies. Antigens, these are just chemicals or toxins in our body that are found on a red blood cell. These also can be bacteria, alright, microorganisms. Then we've got the antibodies. Alright, so we have blood group, we've got antigen, we've got antibodies. We've said that the antibodies are produced by the leukocytes, which they are white blood cells. And we've mentioned the function of antibodies. Alright, so now let's come to this. So these are our blood groups, and this is our antigens, and this is our antibodies. So if you're a blood group A, meaning you've got antigen A, but you've got the antibody B. If you are a blood group B, you have the antigen B, you have the antibody A. If you are AB, meaning you've got antigen AB and you've got no antibodies, that even makes it possible for this to donate blood to this because of the absence of antibody that is not specified there. Then if you are an O, no antigen, antibodies AB, and that's what makes this blood to donate blood to AB, to B, and to A. So that makes it to be a universal donor. So ladies and gentlemen, that's about the blood group. All right, that's about the blood group, how the blood donation works. So your blood, if you're gonna donate blood to somebody, it has to have the matching. The tissues should be matching. So they should have, if you're an A, you donate blood to A, meaning you've got the same antigen, you've got the same antibodies. So these are the things that will make you donate blood to certain person, and your blood to be rejected, or you being the recipient, you reject certain blood tissues from certain individuals because of differences in these two substances that I've said. So that has been on the function of blood. I hope we've all understood on the function of blood. We started to say that blood is used for transport, and we explained on how different materials are transported, including the red blood cell itself. Oxygen there, binding there, and is able to move from the lungs to the tissues, and also carbon dioxide from the tissues to the lungs. And we've talked about that blood is used for clotting. I've explained the sequences or the events, how all blood clotting happens. Then we went on to say blood is also used for immunity due to the presence of the white blood cells that are soldiers of our body. And under those, we came to look at antigens. We looked at what white blood cells are capable of. Then we looked at also blood groups, how these blood groups helps in the matching of blood tissues, so that one can be a recipient or one can be a donor for a certain blood group. So class, that is about blood and its function. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about the structure of the heart and the circulatory system, So make sure that you don't forget to subscribe and also hit the notification bell so that as soon as that video is uploaded, you are told or you are notified that the video is ready and you can watch on that. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been me, a friend explains IK. So see you on my next video and stay